So, in our next and last series of whining traitors, I mean, you gotta kill me, man. I don't believe it. This is like Crybaby Friday. You know, you Tea Party people who joined the GOP and were annexed in post the 2010 election, now the Tea Party is being berated by the GOP left and right. This is an article from the Associated Press again. Listen to this. From county chairman to national party luminaries, veteran Republicans across the country are accusing Tea Party lawmakers of staining the GOP with their refusal to bend in the budget impasse in Washington. The Republican establishment also is signaling a willingness to strike back at the Tea Parties in next fall's elections. You know, I got to tell you something. Let's remember, first and foremost, what every representative's duty is. It is not to a party. It is not to a government. It is to a form of government and a true representation of their people. The people that they represent in their district or in their state. And I can't think of a better reason to repeal the 17th Amendment than the traitors than the expose of the traitors in the Senate. They're not accountable to anybody. They're not accountable to their state legislators. They're not accountable to the people. And they now represent the government against their own states. And the states are buying it. Well, he does bring home the bacon every couple of quarters. Yeah, he brings us home money for bridges and roads, and, he gets us money for an education grant. Really? So, let me ask you, state Judases, what's your price? How many pieces of silver do you got to have? You see, a lot of the people in the Tea Party who originally stood up and in 2010 made a very, very significant point. After the election was over, a lot of these, people who supported the Tea Party and participated in, they were leaders in the Tea Party, and a lot of these candidates who were Tea Party candidates, they said, well, look, we're just going to try to change this from the inside. And the Republican Party welcomed you in and said, well, yeah, sure, come on in. Hey, thanks for helping us control the House and retain it. And then the minute they get a chance to, those traitorous fat elephants are willing to throw you to the wolves. The truth is, those members in Congress who were standing up and saying, we're not going to allow this to go on, are the only ones who are in the right. The rest of these guys all want to go back to, well, let's just do it like we've always done it. The next guy in line after I retire, let him worry about it. Let's just kick the can down the road a little while. Hey, we're $17 trillion in debt. We have another $126 trillion in unfunded liabilities, and we have $640 trillion out there in credit default swaps and derivatives. Our nation is looked at as a laughingstock by every nation on the planet. We've lost our superpower status. We've lost our, fourth war in a row. We have a president in place who is obviously a Marxist. You're spying on your own citizenry. You pass piece after piece after piece after piece of, legislation, let's just call it, that undermines and cuts our throats, rips off our Bill of Rights, delineated God-given rights towards privacy, our free speech, our right to possess and own weapons for our own defense, the defense of our communities, and ultimately our defense of our nation against the likes of you. And you want to go back to, let's just go back to when things were happy. Those Tea Partiers, they led us down the wrong path. You were never part of the Tea Party. Now you want to throw them under the bus. You're nothing but users. It's a Game of Thrones to you. But to us, it's not. This isn't a Game of Thrones to us. These are our lives. These are our families. These are our businesses and our livelihoods. These are our children. And you're really beginning to piss us off. It's time for someone to act like a grown-up in this process, says former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu. He faults Cruz and Tea Party Republicans in the House. Well, guess what? Acting like a grown-up is exactly what they're doing. They're saying, you know what? It's time for the drinking and the partying to stop. It's time for us to grow up and recognize that we have to be responsible. Fiscally, educationally, spiritually, politically, societally, mentally. But you, Mr. Sununu, you're so drunk on the Kool-Aid you've been sucking down for the last 25, 30 years. You don't even recognize it when you're living in treason. They are acting like the grown-ups. They're saying enough is enough. If we don't curtail this, we'll have a problem. Former Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour is just as pointed, saying this about the Tea Party, fueled refusal to support spending measures that include money for Obama's health care law. It never had a chance. Hey, guess what, Haley Barbour? You see, somebody somewhere's got to take a stand. And obviously it ain't going to be you. The anger emanating from Republicans like Sununu and Barbour come just 3 years after the GOP embraced the insurgent political group and rode its wave of new energy to return to power in the House. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's your statement. Oh, they were happy when you helped them keep control of the House. And guess what? They'll change their tune again in 2014 when America is so disgusted that they either get a hold of the Senate or we finally institute a third party in this country that destroys both parties that have sold us down the river, betrayed us for decades now, generations now, for the last 150 years. The duopoly has been in play, ladies and gentlemen, for 150 years. Do you know that there is not a single constitutional or libertarian member who has been elected to office in 150 years? Everybody's been either a Republican or a Democrat. Well, if that's working so damn good, I got to ask you the obvious question. Why are we having this discussion? Now these same traitors are lashing out with polls showing Republicans bearing most of the blame for the federal shutdown. By the way, if you believe polls, you're an idiot. Well, first of all, I've never in my entire life been polled. Polls aren't legitimate. They're not real. They're not representative of anything. If you're going to poll a bunch of people in New Jersey, well, what the hell do you expect you're going to get an answer to? Those polls are meant to do one thing. They're meant to convince the public that the way they think is wrong. And then they get scumbags like these two, Sununu and Barbour, to come out and reinforce that by saying, see, it's all the Tea Party's fault. We never should have let those guys into our ranks in the first place. We always knew they were a little radical. Let me tell you something. America is becoming more radical by the day because we see what 150 years of operation under your authority has become. Our nation is destroyed. Our industry's been given away. Our jobs are evaporated. Our income is been dramatically reduced. The value of the dollar has fallen by 90% over 100 years. We got our own nation spying on us to build dossiers for God only knows what nefarious purpose. You guys have allowed a Marxist in the White House. You've allowed racial separation in this country to the point where we're about to end up in a race war. You're allowing our border to be besieged by not only a bunch of illegal immigrants who you want to give amnesty to, but there are terrorists pouring across the border at an unprecedented, God only knows how many a day rate. You've allowed terrorist attacks to decimate our nation and frighten us into capitulation to scumbags like Alexander and his ilk and Clapper over there at the NSA. I mean, what do you think? Take a look around you. What's so great about what you've given us? I'm telling you, America is tired of this nonsense. You know, there's a poll out this morning, and it's up on, you can find it on the Drudge Report. I posted it up on Facebook and our Facebook and AmericasVoiceNow.org. 60% of Americans in a new poll say throw them all out. Throw them all out. You know why? Because we know what we're dealing with. We are dealing with a bunch of traitors. The headline on Drudge Report right now is throw the bums out. 60% of America says that, and this is an NBC and a Wall Street Journal combined poll. 60% of Americans say fire every member of Congress. That's the message 60% of Americans are sending to Washington in a new NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, saying if they had the chance to vote to defeat and replace every single member of Congress, including their own representative, they would. Just 35% they would say they would not. That 35%, by the way, that's their friends and their family and those who benefit by their being in office because they have a contract or an agreement with them. The 60% figure is the highest ever in that question recorded in the poll, registered in the wake of the government shutdown and the threat of the U.S. defaulting on its debt for the first time in history. We continue to use this number as a way to sort of understand how much revulsion there is. To sort of understand? This is a Democratic pollster. We now have a new high watermark. I got to tell you, you guys keep this up, and you're going to find yourself standing in front of a tribunal one day. Because America's just had it with a whole lot of you. And you can sit there and you can now try to throw those people under the bus from the Tea Party who saved your ass and kept you in office in 2010. And frankly, were the only thing that were standing between us and total devastation and total authoritarianism and totalitarianism under Obama. Because frankly, if they hadn't saved you, you GOP rhinos, and kept you in control in the House, you guys would have signed off on another debt limit increase, and the NSA spying would still be going on, and we'd be far farther down the road than we already are into the arms of tyranny, the open arms of evil. And now that there's a little bump in the road, you're willing to turn around and betray and scream and cry and kick your hands and feet like a petulant group of children. You make me sick, the whole flippin' lot of you. America's tired of you, all of you. We didn't elect you to go in there and benefit yourselves. We elected you to go in there and represent us. Represent us. Not your own best interest. This is like Treason Friday. Unbelievable. All right, America, here's the deal. I'm going to wrap for the day. I want you to make sure that you get over to the truckers and support these groups, because these guys are out there actually showing these chicken crap politicians how life is really supposed to be dealt with. Okay? That's the truth. They're out there riding right now around Washington, D.C., setting a precedent, making a point, showing these sycophantic dragon-fueled or money-fueled dragons that we actually do still own this country, and that we, the people, have had enough. So, let's do this. Make sure that you're participating and assisting over the course of today, Saturday, and Sunday. Do no commerce. Spend no money. Go nowhere unless you've got the pound T2 SDA on your vehicle somewhere. Talk to your friends and your family about it. Pick up the telephone after this and make a round of calls to your friends and family and say, don't spend any money this weekend. We're trying to make a point. You can help us do that. You can help do your one part and take back the nation. You can help us right here, right now. Don't spend any money over the weekend, so that hopefully we can get an honest statistician who will say to us, yeah, the weekend before that, X dollars were spent. But this week, when America went on strike for a whole weekend, Y dollars were spent. Imagine if we could do that for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. We'd starve the dragon to death and we'd be back in control of our own nation again. Ladies and gentlemen, the beast only eats one thing: money. Yours. So, how do we kill the beast? We can't win with swords. Our arrows bounce off of its armored scales. When you strike the dragon, your sword melts. So, how do you beat the dragon? Aha. It's got to eat. And the only thing that it eats is your money. Without food, like all other organisms, it will wither and die. And then we can get into the treasure hoard that it's stolen from us and take our nation back. The treasure hoard of our First Amendment. The treasure hoard of our Second Amendment. The treasure hoard of our Fourth Amendment, our Fifth Amendment, our Sixth, our Seventh, our Eighth Amendment. The treasure hoard of our Ninth. The vast trunk of treasure of our 10th Amendment. Those are all sitting behind the dragon. He's protecting his theft of those from us. To do battle with the beast, you've got to be smarter than every other guy who's walked up and tried to do battle and lost. The swords melt, the spears bounce off, and the arrows bounce off. So, let's work a little smarter. Let's put the thing under siege and starve it out. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Please find us on our website at AmericasVoiceNow.org. You can also find us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And then you can also find us on this and every other program on YouTube by going to youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Please share these videos with your friends. I don't care if you're sitting down with a friend one night and having a beer, pop this open on your phone and show it to them, and then talk about it amongst yourselves. Listen, we're the last stop, folks. If they defeat us, we may as well just capitulate. Participate with us this weekend. Spend no money. Tell your friends. We're making a point, and the country's on strike this weekend. Today, tomorrow, and Sunday. We are on strike. Have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday.